Alô a todos que nos acompanham no canal JAPA RICO, como sempre, transmitindo diretamente de Hong Kong para todos vocês. E hoje vamos dar continuidade à série JAPA RICO, reagindo a outros traders. Vamos falar sobre Humble Trader. Acho que ela dispensa de apresentações, já falamos sobre Humble Trader várias e várias vezes aqui no canal, durante vários anos, então vamos lá.
To kick off this particular strategy that I used for 2 trades today that made over $7,000 in total, you should learn the 3 golden criteria first. So number 1, you want to see...
Tá. Então ela vai falar sobre 3 critérios para você operar essa estratégia e ela vai apresentar aí o título em inglês é The Most Consistently Profitable Trading Strategy. Em português seria a estratégia mais consistente e lucrativa. E aí tá escrito Step by Step Guide, então um guia de passo a passo. E aí ela vai apresentar algumas estratégias. A primeira estratégia é essa. E aqui, para você operar a estratégia, tem algumas regras, 3 regras. E ela vai falar sobre isso agora.
See a huge overnight gap up. So for example here, the stock gapped up from $79 to over $98 pre-market. This is an over 5% overnight gap up.
Então aí você vai ter que ter um gap up, né? Um gap, para quem não sabe, é quando dá aquele salto, né? Aquele pulo. E aí a gente chama, no mercado financeiro a gente tem esse termo chamado gap, né? Ou seja, aquele dá um gap, né? Dá uma descontinuidade, né? Por exemplo, que você vai ver aqui, né? No daily, você vê esse grande espaço. Então isso aqui seria um gap, né? E aqui ele observa, após esse gap que você vê, aqui ela muda para o gráfico de 5 minutos.
Number 2, you want to see a very strong positive catalyst. In this case for the stock, they beat on earnings on all 3 metrics. And number 3,
E mais uma vez sobre catalyst, né? Esse catalyst são alguns fatores, né? Um conjunto de fatores ou algum fator que faz com que o preço da ação mude durante. Aí você pode ver que são fatores que acontecem, por exemplo, na divulgação de alguma coisa relacionada a essa empresa, ou earnings announcement, alguma coisa que aconteceu, né, para que essa ação tenha algum gap up, algum gap down, ou, né, que interfira no preço dessa ação em si. Então isso é um catalyst.
you want to see a very bullish daily chart. So in this particular example here, you can see we're gapping up over the daily resistance at 93, 95, 96, and also $98. And that's what I mean by a very strong bullish daily chart. And we'll go over each of these criteria in detail in just a little bit. Now let's talk about the psychological and technical factors behind this gap up reversal long strategy. Of course, we talked about earlier, you want to see a huge overnight gap up. And not just any gap up, you want to see a gap up in this case with very positive earnings catalyst. And once again, like I've explained many times on this channel, the reason you want to look for these gappers have gapped up so much overnight due to positive catalysts is because you want to have other investors, traders, institutions be attracted into the stock to create volume and range for you to profit from.
E aí que tá, né? Porque você pensa no seguinte, né? Você teve esse gap up, e aí com um positive catalyst, eu já expliquei o que é um catalyst, e aí isso vai impulsionar com que os outros traders também fiquem de olho nessa ação. E aí você vai conseguir um volume.
That's the whole reason DDOG was able to gap up from $79 to $96 pre-market, and even after that continued to break through $100 here pre-market highs, and then slowly trend all the way up to 104. That's the kind of range we're talking about. We're not talking about 50 cents move. We're talking about a stock that can move 2, 3, 5, 10 points in one day. Now let's take a look at the technical analysis on this.
Isso aqui eu também acho importante, né? Você fala, ela frisar para vocês que ela não está procurando aí centavos, né? Ela está procurando aí de 5 a 10, né, pontos em uma sessão.
This particular stock now. The reason you want a huge gap up pre-market and not just any gap up, you want to see the stock already kind of trending up pre-market. So you can see after hours it gapped up. Pre-market this morning, despite a little pullback at around 8 o'clock, you had the pullback from 98 down to $94.
A gente teve um pouco de correção. Vocês podem ver que aqui, né, tivemos uma correção durante o pre-market.
But you later on reclaim that pre-market VWAP over here, reclaimed on the 5-minute chart and slowly reclaimed to $98, $99. This provides you the pre-market level to use as intraday support. And you can see that pre-market support area, $95, $96 range, is what I'm gonna be using as key level later on in the live trading recording. And once you have that key level to use from both the daily chart as well as intraday, you can use that level to plan your risk, entry areas, and potential profit targets. So,
então, aí ela está usando basicamente, ela está usando esse key level de 96, ela está usando esse key level do pre-market durante uma vez que a sessão abre.
in this case, if I get in around this $96 area, I want to be aiming for that pre-market resistance around $99.50 or $100 mark, and even higher to the daily chart. You can see over that 100, you have upside to 101 here, as well as on this little wicks here on the daily, 102s, and potentially even higher to 104. Now, before I dive into the live trading example to go over this trade step by step with you, let's talk about what makes this particular strategy or pattern so repeatable and so.
E aí que tá, né? Uma coisa também, você tem que ter esse tipo de padrão, padrão, né? Esse tipo de padrão tem que se repetir várias vezes. E aí ela vai explicar por que isso é tão repetitivo.
Suitable for beginner traders to get started. So the first reason I think this is a very great strategy for new traders to get started is because it's easy to find these stocks. Like I said earlier, with all the
É fácil de encontrar esse tipo de ação.
criteria we just mentioned, these gap ups, especially on large cap and mid cap stocks, they happen very often. Among these stocks like Apple, Tesla, DDOG, or even cheaper stocks like Block or Coinbase. And you can do that with either paid or free scanners as well. Now, the next reason I think this is a very beginner-friendly strategy is that the technical support and resistance levels on the daily charts, especially like I showed you earlier, are very likely to form and very easy to plan out. Like I said earlier, if you just use a daily chart, on this example here, you can see all the potential support, resistance, and you can use your intraday chart to kind of reaffirm your thesis. It's quite simple. I shouldn't use the word easy. It's simple to plan your entries, risk reward, and upside price target. Next, let's talk about planning for these entries. You're not buying a breakout on this particular strategy. You're buying the breakthrough of the key level consolidation, and you're watching a pullback and slowly grind up higher. That's the reason you're gonna see in my live trading recording, I use the 5-minute chart as well as the 2-minute chart.
Caramba, 2-minute chart, o gráfico de 2 minutos.
You'll see in a live trading example that I'm not getting in at the high of the day breakout. I'm buying on these little pullbacks at 97, VWAP reclaim.
Então ela está comprando nos pullbacks, né? Ela está comprando na correção e não está fazendo rompimento, né? E também é o que eu faço, né? A gente não opera rompimento. Eu sempre falo para vocês aqui no canal JAPA Rico, não operamos o rompimento. Então ela está fazendo, comprando nos pullbacks, o que faz sentido ao meu ver, né? Porque eu acho que rompimento não é lucrativo você operar rompimento. Eu pelo menos acho isso.
And once it starts consolidating over that $99 area and then selling into the breakout.
Você vê que operando desse modo é muito mais lucrativo do que se você operasse rompimento.
And this is how you can also plan to have a decent risk reward. When you're buying the breakout, a lot of times once the stock breaks out, let's say right here at 101s, you're immediately running into resistance $1 or $2 later. You don't have time to let this thing reclaim VWAP, reclaim pre-market highs, and slowly trend up.
Muitas vezes você opera rompimento já é tarde demais já.
Okay, enough talking. Now let's dive into this live trading example of how I executed this particular strategy on 2 different trades and made over $7,000 in 30
Caramba, 8.239 US dólares.
minutes.
Em 30 minutos
We're gonna
operando.
talk about commentary on the 2 stocks and my executions. You're gonna see my entry, stop loss, as well as profit target, and how I read price action to stay in a winner and let it work. So you can see over here, market had just opened. It's 9:30 a.m. market time. You can see DDOG 2-minute chart at the bottom here. You can see I got in once the stock tests that VWAP area, the pre-market VWAP we talked about earlier, at around 97.80s. I started in with 1,000 shares. Now my plan is to slowly add into it. My starter size on this will actually be 500 shares, but I think today I'm feeling quite good about the stock. Fast forward, a couple minutes later, well, only about 2 minutes later, you can see we're still teetering around the 97.40s area. I'm down about 40 cents, but I'm not panicking. I'm looking at the stock, looking at if we're gonna hold that pre-market VWAP, or are we actually gonna test that key level I
Ela sempre usa bastante VWAP, né?
planned out at $96. You can see I have an order sitting there, seeing if I'm gonna get filled. Fast forward a little bit, you can see we're still trading around that $97 area. With a small pullback here and there by 1 point, but once again, this DDOG moves in big ranges. You cannot be risking just $1. And it only went down to 96, 40s for a split second. Let's see, does it break down or does it slowly consolidate and reclaim? You can see on the top, I like to switch back and forth between the 2-minute and the 5-minute chart. On the top over here, you can see I'm looking at a 2-minute chart. I'm looking at, okay, are we really selling off or are we just slowly holding that, pre-market support area around $96? You can see I'm trying to see if I can just
Na verdade, o jeito que ela opera me lembra eu há muitos anos atrás.
add a little bit down here at $96.
Lembrando que isso aqui é mais estressante, né?
On the 5-minute chart, you can, and as
Esse
well
modo
as the
operacional.
2-minute chart, you can see little wicks at the bottom of the candle getting bought back up. To me, that's a bullish sign, especially for a stock that has such a strong catalyst of earnings beat. We are testing that VWAP area on the 2-minute chart. So my starter size is usually 500 shares. You're gonna see me trim it down from 1,000 down to 500, just to be safe. After all,
Just to be safe.
we're
Vamos
still
ver.
within 10 minutes of the market open. I trimmed 500 shares just to, reduce my risk a little bit during this uncertain period. So I'm down to 500 shares at 97.80s average. I realized a loss of $380. You can see at the bottom screen here on the 5-minute, we're immediately jumping over VWAP. I added back in 1,000 shares that gave me an average of 97.90, and we are already skipping up. That's the thing with this DDOG. It's a stock I've traded in the past. When it breaks out, it kind of skips in dollars. When it sells off slowly in like 20 cents. So I'm glad I got in. You can see on the top, on the 2-minute chart, we are already skipping through to $99. That's how fast these things go.
Entendi.
Again, bullish daily charts down here. That's really great to see. You can see on the daily charts, you are breaking out. Through that $96 pre-market, you really don't have any strong resistance until 101, 102s on the daily. So that's the beauty of having a daily chart on the side, as well as your intraday chart. So you can see the
Mas isso aqui eu acho que a grande maioria das pessoas fazem isso também, né? Será que não? Eu, pelo menos, faria.
bigger picture. As you probably know from my videos, my trading strategies that involve scalping, momentum, and shorting, they require a very fast broker platform. I have some exciting news from the broker I personally use.
Já é o momento de propaganda, né, com isso aqui.
Centerpoint Securities is now finally open in Canada once again. You can now open an account with a lowered minimum of $20,000
Sales pitch dela.
and get 1 month free of Dash Trader Pro. That's the broker platform you see in all my YouTube videos.
É?
If you want extremely fast...
Não sabia, eu pensava que ela estava usando Interactive Brokers, mas a tela está um pouco diferente mesmo, né, da Interactive Brokers, então poderia ser uma outra corretora, mas não sabia que era essa
Order
Centerpoint.
executions, extensive short locates and routing options, then you should definitely check out Centerpoint with a link down below. And we are already testing that $100 mark. I added some more over here, as you can see. I added up here 500 shares. Now I have 2,000 shares at $98.38 average.
Ela fica adicionando as ordens.
I sold a little bit. Should have held it, but I did sell 300 shares at around $100 because I think.
E outra que ela não dá uma explicação muito concreta sobre o porquê dela tá adicionando as ordens, né?
I think I was looking at that pre-market resistance right here. You can see on the yellow line that pre-market resistance, trying to be safe, but sometimes you don't want to be too conservative. I sold a little bit more. What a shame. Into that 180s. No worries. I still have a remainder of 1,400 shares. We're pulling back to the $99 area, but the action still holds up quite well. You can see this DDOG, despite that $100 rejection, you're not getting like if you pause here on the top, 2-minute chart, you're still, yes, you are below that $100 area, the resistance, but you're holding up the $99 quite alright.
Tá. Olha, eu acho que já deu, vocês puderam observar muito sobre como ela opera o mercado. Essa parte dela ficar adicionando, né, por exemplo, quando ela estava... a ação teve uma correção, né, e quando começou a voltar, ela começou a adicionar. Eu gostaria de saber, na verdade, quais critérios para se adicionar posições nesse exato momento que ela estava falando, né? Eu queria saber quais os critérios para isso. Ela não explicou. O que vocês acham sobre isso? Só que o que ela já falava sobre, primeiro sobre o gap up, né? E outra sobre esse positive catalyst. Eu acho que isso são coisas que vocês também podem adicionar. Aliás, eu também adicionaria no meu operacional. É claro, dependendo de que tipo de operacional. No caso dela, esse tipo de operacional funciona muito bem no intraday, né? Já no daily chart, já acredito que não funcionaria, né? Esse tipo de euforia no mercado acontece principalmente por causa desse positive catalyst impulsionado pelo gap up durante o pre-market. Então, e aí você pode ver que a consequência disso, né, a influência disso, afeta durante, né, o intraday da sessão seguinte. Então, isso faria sentido para as pessoas que operam intraday. Já se você que é posicionado já em swing trading, né, eu acho que já não faria sentido, ao meu ver. Escrevam aqui o que vocês acham e vejo vocês na próxima. Teremos muito mais conteúdo sobre Humble Trader, porque tem várias coisas interessantes que eu acho que eu vou trazer aqui para vocês. Beleza? Então, obrigado, até mais. Tchau.